Back in the 80s, the general rule of thumb with SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, were pull up your socks, work on your weaknesses. What are you doing? You got to improve that, right? And then along came Steve Jobs, and he turned that approach upside down. And he was of the belief that no, you focus everything on your strengths. You become the best, in this case, lawyer. You become the best lawyer that you can be. And then we build a team around you to handle everything else. And that'll take care of the weaknesses. Because the weaknesses are typically things that you're not good at. You don't like them either. That's why you'll never be good at them. If you don't like the admin stuff of your practice, you're never going to be great at it. Where there are people that actually love and thrive doing admin work. And one of the key roles in any law firm is that admin function, whether it be an office manager at a smaller scale or the COO on a bigger scale, right? That whole running of the office and the backroom stuff and the admin, critical.
Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World of Marketing, where I, Tom Foster, talk with legal leaders about marketing mindset and the growth of law firm businesses. This episode is brought to you by my own company, Foster Web Marketing. Since the internet was born, Foster Web Marketing has been the premier provider of customized websites, marketing, video, and strategic marketing solutions for elite law firms. Our unparalleled web technology and marketing systems set the gold standard in the industry, catering exclusively to a discerning clientele who demand the best. Partner with Foster Web Marketing for services like Fractional CMO, perfect for firms looking to elevate their marketing strategy without the full-time commitment or cost of a traditional CMO. Visit fosterwebmarketing.com to discover how we can help you achieve your most ambitious goals and solidify your position at the forefront of your field. Man, I've said marketing so many times. I got to fix that. But this is not about me or us. This is about my new friend that I just met, Gary Mitchell. And I'm thrilled to introduce my next guest, Gary Mitchell. Gary is a seasoned business coach specializing in helping lawyers build the careers of their dreams. With his entrepreneurial mindset and approach, Gary sets himself apart by empowering lawyers to think beyond traditional practices and embrace innovative strategies for success. If today's conversation inspires you, contact Gary for his coaching services. His insights and services are available at ontracoach.com, and we'll put that down. Gary, thanks so much. It's great to meet you, buddy. Thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Great to meet you, Tom. It's always nice to meet other professionals in the legal realm, helping lawyers get out of their own way and become successful in business.
Yeah. And everybody, Gary and I were just spending the last 10 minutes getting to know each other. Gary is Canadian, out in Vancouver, right? Originally from Toronto, but in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And what is that behind you? You got some medals up there? Where are those?
Those are my grandmother's medals. She won.
Oh, nice.
She was. You're probably familiar with the show MASH, right?
Yeah.
You know the character played by Loretta Swit. She was the lieutenant in charge of the nurses. My grandmother in World War II was the equivalent of that for the Canadian Armed Forces in Europe.
Wow.
And so she won these medals, including the top one, which is the Victoria Cross, which was the highest medal a woman could earn in World War II in the Canadian Armed Forces. So
that is fantastic, and I love that you display them.
Yeah,
so
well, I just showed interest in it in her experience in high school. I was always interested in history, sociology, which is kind of the precur to coaching, right? Everything I've done in my life has led me to coaching, but I simply showed interest, and she willed me, made it adamant to the whole family that Gary's getting the medals. Below that is the indoctrination into the armed forces from King George VI, because back then Canada was still legally part of the Commonwealth, like part of under the King. We hadn't had our patriation yet, but anyway. So yes, that's in my office, my home office, and very proud. One of the strongest women I've ever known. And if I'm having a tough day, I just look over my shoulder and look at those and remember what she went through, right?
Right. That's great. That's great inspiration for everybody. Yeah. And that's great. I'm a vet. I was in the Marines 85 to 91. So I love other vets. And I think that's wonderful. That's fantastic. And thank you so much. Is she still with us or is she passed on?
No, she's passed many years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I'm older than I look.
thanks so much to her,
Yes.
you, sir, for her contributions. So, Gary, you do coaching. You help lawyers be successful, right? That's what you do.
I do. Yeah,
so tell me a little bit about how you do that.
Yeah, my approach is there's a lot of psychology in this. Like I really understand the lawyer mind. And the typical lawyer mindset is exactly what it should be to serve their clients in law, right? Skeptical, analytical, detail-oriented. All these things are very, very critical to the practice of law and why their clients hire them. But they also obstruct lawyers, for the most part, in being successful in business. Because as you know, especially with marketing and business is not black and white. Yeah. It's almost always gray. And it requires you to be flexible and nimble and creative and roll with the punches. Of course, litigators are much more, have those skills a lot more because they're in the courtroom and they have to, be on their feet and perform and react quickly. But my focus is really in teaching them a different way of looking at the practice of law. It's all focused on their goals, their vision. Like I'm never telling a client what they should be doing. They come to me quite frankly, if they're fed up of the old system, the old, sure. They've worked for enough bigger firms and they've put the work in. They know how to be a great lawyer, but they're fed up and they want to do something more on their own. So that's my sweet spot. I mean, I've worked with solo practice lawyers right up to partners at international firms and everything in between. And I still do, Tom, because I think it's important to keep an eye out on what is going on in the industry overall, right? But the sweet spot is the smaller firm owners.
Yeah, tend to be those are the guys need the most help.
Well, they do, but they also tend to be a little bit more entrepreneurial. So we gel. Like I started my first business when I was 25. I call myself a serial entrepreneur. Yeah. And my very first client, Tom, talk about serendipity. He basically gave me the profile of who I should be after, of one of the profiles. He said, Gary, I chose you apart from the two other people. And I was brand spanking new. I like to say, I didn't have a scratch on me. He was my first client. And so he says, I chose you over two others because you have what I want. You have that entrepreneurial drive and spirit. I already know how to be a great lawyer. I want what you have. And I was like, wow, okay, thank you for sharing that with me. You just kind of gave me a insight into who I need to be looking for, right? Right. Great perfect clients like him. Yeah. Yeah, great lawyers who want to take their practice or their firm to the next level. And they recognize, they can do it on their own. Probably if they get some help, they'll do it faster. Right. That's the key. Right. They will do it on their own. And I'm not going to come in and say I'm a miracle worker and it's all me. Well, how did you get into it? Tell us how you got into it. Politics. It's a fascinating story because tell me. I've always, like I said, I was interested in history, sociology, politics from a very young age. So everything I've done has been around people. So I actually took a stab. I ran for parliament here in Canada in 2004. Oh, nice. Which in the United States, for American viewers, is like the House of Representatives, okay? So it's the equivalent. I lost, thankfully. I wouldn't have been good in the backbenches. I talk too much. Anyway, then I was approached the following election to coach and run a campaign for a lawyer. And so this was an aha moment of my life. Having been the guy, and now I'm the guy behind the guy, or the guy behind the person. He flourished under. He was an open canvas, a blank canvas. I coached him. It was amazing. His friend, former lawyer, who left the legal profession, went into family business. It said to me, Gary, you need to look at the legal profession. They need help with business, and the skills that you've just shown Tony in how to be a great candidate, are exactly the same lawyers need for business. And so I embarked on about 9 months of research. Most of it online, was in the US, very little going on in Canada. But within a couple months, the very first chapter of the Legal Marketing Association outside of the United States was formed here in Vancouver. I went to the forming meeting. I met legendary legal marketers, some of whom you've probably heard of, because they were up from the US. And I got involved. Within a few months, I was on the board. So my network within legal marketing was growing.
Great. The
And
timing
it
is
just,
perfect.
it was serendipitous, Tom. Like I knew a lot of lawyers, obviously from a political background. So I reached out to them. I did online research. And then I went, because of that meeting, one of the marketing directors of a big firm here in Vancouver approached me, and she introduced me to one of her junior partners, and he was my first client. And literally, like, to say, I chose you because you got what I want, right? Like, he set it up for me. He was an incredible client. He was already doing good. But I call him the juice guy, Tom. I go in, back then, our coaching was in person. I started out in person. It was just Vancouver, right? Within a year, it's all over North America, and it's by phone or Zoom. Anyway, I come in to meet him one day in the board meeting. He's got his green juice. He wasn't just taking his practice to the next level. He was taking his life to the next level.
Right.
He was off alcohol, doing the nutrition thing, had a personal trainer, working out at the gym, spending more time with his family. Like, he was taking everything next level. So it's like, what a blessing almost to have him as my first client, right?
Yeah. Is that the guy that said, "I want you and I'm gonna"?
Yeah. Yep.
Does he still retain you, or?
See, this is the thing. I put myself out of work, Tom. If I do my job,
I'm with you. Same thing.
yeah. If I do my job properly,
right. They don't need you.
No,
and then what happens is they forget that you're the one that helped them get there. They did it themselves.
He actually reached out. It was about 2 years later. I worked with him for about a year. Again, another sponge, right? He was so smart. He was smart enough to know what he didn't know and willing to take it from another source, right? Outstanding. He was a litigator. I never did get a chance to see him in court, but I would imagine he would be very talented. But here's the thing. Within 2 years of our working together, he landed the largest litigation file in the history, 100 history of this litigation firm. It's a big litigation firm in Vancouver. At 37, he became the #1 business developer in the firm and income earner.
Wow. That's great.
And the file wasn't even in his practice area. It was from the principles, the business development I was teaching him. Because back in those days, it was all business development. It was all about getting clients, right? As my practice expanded and different clients came to me for different issues, and I worked with more small firm owners, that expanded to everything business. So HR, marketing, management, everything about the people part of the business. And
so every piece of it.
Yep, that's right. I won't build a website. I'll work with people like you. I'll say to a client, you know what? You need a good website. I can act as a second or third set of eyes in the process, but you need to go work with Tom, or you need to go work with I'm almost like a fractional CEO, in that I will help them find like an accountant setup, a back end setup. If they need a good office manager or virtual assistants, definitely the marketing side for marketing and their website. But I'm a partner in cutting down the time it's going to take them to get to those quality suppliers. Because as you know, there's a million people out there doing this stuff.
Sure.
They're not all great. And lawyers don't have time to go through the weeds, right? They want to get, they want to get to.
And it's way worse now than when you and I first got into this.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Oh my God,
nobody was around.
Coach. It's funny because when I did my research, there was no business coach in Canada. There might have been 2 in the United States in 2006 when I got started. And now it's like it's all over. It's
everywhere.
Right? Yeah.
I'm interviewing coaches every other day.
Yep.
Yeah. It's amazing.
But here's a testament though. In the last week, I've had 2 clients come back to me because their situations changed. One, I love this one, and I can hardly wait to help him and work with him. One, I started years ago when he was in the Toronto office of a national firm, junior partner, and we were starting out with business development. A few years later, he decided to move to the Calgary office. So he wanted help with the transition into the new office, which I do that work. And high-level lawyers, partners are moving from one firm to another or across the country. Well, now he's the managing partner of the office in Calgary. And so I'm going to be working with him on the leadership level of running the firm in Calgary. So he's come back to me for a third go, which is amazing. And then another client who is now going to be going out on his own. I did some business development work with about 5 years ago, reached out to me. We start tomorrow. So he's come back to me again. And I guess there's no better testament than a client who comes back to you.
The prodigal sons are the best.
Yeah, when the situation has changed, and they're going in a different direction, and it's a different set of variables. I mean, that's awesome. And then the good thing is, like, there's no warm up here. We already have that relationship.
Right.
So we can dig right in tomorrow and start to get to work and get stuff done. Right.
Well, that's a great lesson, isn't it, Gary? Because a lot of lawyers, they're always looking for shiny new. They're always looking for the next thing, right? The next, and they're very easily. I don't know if that's the way it is up in Canada, but certainly is down here. We find that they get easily seduced by new things, by new shiny marketing, this or that, and you're going to do this. It's going to get you $1 million cases. Especially the PI guys. Really, not much has changed, right? I mean, like, marketing is marketing. I mean,
the cornerstone, the fundamentals, like the last book I wrote was Growing a Law Practice During COVID-19. And I said that at the very beginning of the book. The fundamentals have not changed.
Right.
Right. The tools, a lot of the tools, absolutely. When I got started compared to now, especially with AI and everything else on the horizon.
Like when you and I got started, the internet was just getting going. That's you were just getting lawyers on the internet.
Yeah. And they were just a few years past getting used to using the fax machine.
Right? Oh, yeah, don't get me started on the fax machine.
Now, that's before my time in the legal industry. But
I heard
stories.
I built all my businesses on a fax machine, by the way. That's how I got my businesses going.
My first business in Toronto, I had a fax machine. Before I moved to Vancouver, that was 30 years ago. That's the last fax machine I had.
That's exactly right.
But it's interesting because and lawyers are the same everywhere, by the way. I've worked with lawyers in Mexico. I've worked with lawyers in Europe. Lawyers are lawyers. It's a certain type of person that gravitates to the practice of law. They obviously have to be of a certain level of intelligence, as you know. And then from there on, there's some traits, there's some personality traits that are very similar. And when people tell me, "Oh, I procrastinate," I try to act surprised. I'm a perfectionist. Again, I try to act surprised.
Oh, you're unique, right?
Yeah, you're so unique. I've never heard that before. You don't like to. You're terrible at docketing. Oh, wow, you are unique. Yeah,
right.
It's hard because all these habits or personality traits, they're very common. Of course, they are as individual as you and I. And all of them are, right? Because all of us are individuals. But there are some things that are very standard across the board. And I go back to the point that everything that makes them a great lawyer can hold them back from being great at the business of law. And that's my job, is to help them look at things at a different angle, from a different view. And when they get it, because they do, right? If they are open to the advice and the coaching, they get it quickly, right? The key is if they are smart enough to realize that they don't know everything, and they're willing to ask for help. That's the key, and it's still rare, Tom. Let me tell you something of the philosophy of how I work with my clients too. Is I'm not trying to change them. I work with each client and I work around their strengths. And let me give you've been in the business long enough, so you'll remember back in the 80s, the general rule of thumb with SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, were pull up your socks, work on your weaknesses. What are you doing? You got to improve that, right? And then along came Steve Jobs, and he turned that approach upside down. And he was of the belief that no, you focus everything on your strengths. You become the best, in this case, lawyer. You become the best lawyer that you can be. And then we build a team around you to handle everything else. And that'll take care of the weaknesses. Because the weaknesses are typically things that you're not good at. You don't like them either. That's why you'll never be good at them. If you don't like the admin stuff of your practice, you're never going to be great at it. Where there are people that actually love and thrive doing admin work. And one of the key roles in any law firm is that admin function, whether it be an office manager at a smaller scale or the COO on a bigger scale, right? That whole running of the office and the back room stuff and the admin, critical. Most lawyers I know don't like that. I don't like that. I can identify with that, right?
Sure.
So it's helping them to understand, don't try to be everything, which is very hard for the solo practice and small firm owners to grapple. They want to try and do everything for various reasons. Is you be the best you, okay? And guess what's going to come of that? You're going to have more fun. You're going to have more fulfillment. You're going to only be doing the work that you truly thrive and enjoy. And that's the best thing. When I get a senior partner who tells me near the end of the mandate, Gary, I cannot believe how much fun I'm having with my practice now. I'm only doing the work that I love. And I laugh and I go, because you're delegating. You're delegating. You've not only built the habit, but you're good at it now. You've built an amazing team around you. Everything's functioning and you're doing the things that you should be doing. That's why you're happy, right? So
that's the hardest lesson, isn't it, Gary? That's the hardest thing to get to is the delegation, is trusting other people.
Letting go. Absolutely.
Letting it go, yeah.
For lawyers, I mean, that was how I got into medicine in the beginning. I first ran that candidate's nomination. So he had a challenge to get the nomination, right? In the States, you call it the primaries, okay? So the candidate has to get to be the candidate first, right? So they run within their party or whatever. So I ran that. I told him, I sat down with him. I went into the boardroom, never knew him. I never met him before in my life. I just got the call and said, okay, let's meet. I go in, I said, this is what you're going to do. This is what I'm going to do. It was like a very short period of time. And it was just him and I, and we got stuff done. So he wins the nomination. So on the one hand, there's trust. I said, this is the way it's going to work. This is what you need to do. This is what I need to do. And this is how much it's going to cost. And on the other side, there was a whole bunch of backroom stuff, which is always the case with politics, no matter what party you are supporting. So at the end of it, he wins. He looks at the things. Gary said this is going to happen. It happened. He helped me. There's all this stuff on the other side. Who am I going to trust? I'm going to trust Gary. So he wants me to be his campaign manager. I did not want to be his campaign manager. No,
different game.
That is a whole different game. Now you're talking about a whole structure, committees, and hundreds of people and volunteers.
You got to hire a guy for that.
It was him and me. Right? And I was doing the coaching work. Anyway, it's trust. And lawyers, more than anyone else, it's a hard thing for them to let go and build and get to a place where they do have a team. But that is one of my main functions.
Yeah, but that is the most important thing. You're right. I mean,
I agree because and the HR, it's another pain point for them, Tom, because especially if they've been burned before in the past, which many have. Like I'm just working with I say new client. I've been working with him for a month. He took over a small firm in Toronto about a year ago, and he just let go of the last person. No one that he took on when he purchased this firm is left in less than a year. They were either incompetent, they didn't feel the fit with the new direction of the firm. But here's an example where I'm starting from scratch with this guy. We're pressing the restart button, and I'm trying to be positive with him and tell him, okay, well,
not only we learn. He's got the list.
Yeah, well, he's got all the
past clients.
Oh yeah, no, he's got clients, but he's got to press restart with the staff. And I said, but here's the thing now, and he recognized it too. Everything you've touched is moving in the right direction. Everything you inherited is now gone. Right. So it's good. You're not going to do that. This is all the things not to do. You've learned that. You're still standing. You didn't lose that much. Let's look at this seriously. Look all the things you've learned what not to do. Now we're working together. We're going to be able to move forward faster. But it's still hard. It's hard for them to do that. And HR is one of the most complex part of the business. Like I always say,
100%.
We
all get burned, right? We've all been burned. That's business. You get burned in business all the time.
You get burned in life.
In life, I mean, it's just the way it goes.
It is.
You just got to get up and handle it. And
You know,
do it
the
again.
1 in 10 that will work with me, I have fun. I love seeing the transformation, right? The light bulb come on, the transformation. Some of the stories are what my clients have created. It's so far out of the norm for the legal
Yeah.
industry, and they're happy and they have balanced lives and they're making really good, lucrative incomes, right? So you know what? One senior tax lawyer from what is it? It's just outside of New York City. Long Island.
Yeah.
A very successful tax lawyer from Long Island. Love that accent, by the way. Um, she says to me on one of my podcast interviews, she goes, "You can have everything. You just can't do it all on your own." I was like, "That's true.
It's
You
true.
can. You
You
can have
can.
everything if you put it all together and get the right people around you, but you can't do it on your own."
So, Gary, I'm looking at your website here, and what is this Practice Builder membership?
Oh, that's an app.
Okay.
I built an app.
Oh,
So
nice.
there's basically 3 levels of support. Coaching is the premier. That's the one-on-one with me, right? Training is group, and then there's the app. It's, many lawyers are self learners, so they can go in, sign up for the app, and cancel anytime. But it takes them through the process of the content, the exercises, the analytics. There's tip sheets in there. So it's basically an app version of the content that I do in my program, but it allows the lawyer to do it on their own time at their own
Great.
pace. So it's three different approaches, right? If you want my time, then that obviously these produce different level results. The coaching will always produce the highest level results
Sure.
because we're in the moment, like you and I are right now in this conversation, and we're dealing with whatever it is that you need to deal with, and we deal with it pretty quickly. The training is more generic, and then the app is generic as well, but it does provides you a roadmap for the lawyer if they're a self-starter, self-learner, and they don't have to commit to their coaching program. Yeah.
And it's OnTrac Coach. I'm going to spell that out. OnTracCoach.com, guys.
Right. OnTrac, no K, coach.com.
There you go. Well, that's very clever. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to tell people about, Gary?
If you're not happy in your practice, no matter where you are, if you're working in a firm where you don't feel you're appreciated, you're working too hard, it's not what you want. If you know in your gut that this is not working, I urge you to reach out. I've seen far too many lawyers leave the profession because they believe it's all the same everywhere. It's not. And you can have the career, you can have whatever career you want in law. I've seen it. I'm not just saying I've been the one who's helped all these. I've seen a lot of amazing stories out there where lawyers have created exactly what they want for their career and their life. Don't give up. Just reach out and get some help.
Yeah.
Get some help. Don't throw away your education and your experience. That's the biggest, strongest thing I would have to say. I mean, that's my mission, really, is to empower more lawyers to get more from their careers because I see how hard they've worked. Like, frankly, growing up in high school, I thought about law. I didn't think I had the discipline to hit the books for that. It's an incredible amount of discipline and hard work these professionals have and the time they put into it. So I agree. It saddens me to see them give up on that because they've been in a bad culture, and we know there's many of them in the industry. So that's my last thing: is just reach out, look for some help, get some help. Don't throw it away because you can have whatever you want.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Gary's right, everybody. I mean, it is hard to become a lawyer. It is one of the hardest disciplines there is, if not the hard, medical probably is up there with it too. But being a lawyer and staying on top of it is very difficult. All areas of law. And also, we were talking earlier, there's lots of coaches out there. And if you've had a coach before, it didn't work out or whatever, that doesn't mean that coaching doesn't work. That's the other thing too. Is don't be like that about it. Give Gary if you've done it before, it didn't work out. Maybe Gary's your guy, and that's the thing. you have to find the right match. That's the other thing too, is that
Well,
you have
I always,
the right match.
I always, that's very critical, Tom. And in that vein, I always ask people, think back to when you were growing up. And if it wasn't a sports coach, because not everyone played sports, but I think of many different coaches in my lifetime. Some of them were teachers. They had a profound effect on the direction of my life. And it's just, I asked people to remember that. The Olympics just wrapped up. Look at those Olympians. The U.S. did amazing this year. Canada broke our record as well for Summer Olympics. They don't get there on their own. In fact, to get to that level, they have teams of coaches. But it is true. I've had many clients come to me. They've worked with other people before. It didn't work out for whatever reason. Fit is critical, right? I'm not going to be the right personality for everyone. I recognize that.
But you could be the secret weapon for many people. I was going to say that.
I have been a secret weapon. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, everybody. Gary is Canadian. He's in Vancouver. He's got a style about him. And Gary, I like you already, man. I just met you, 30 minutes ago. And I like you already. You know, I want to work with you, and I want to send you some business.
I'll probably be sending you some business as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's figure out how to do that. But everybody, OnTrac Coach, Gary Mitchell. What a great name, too, by the way. That's a Hollywood name, Gary Mitchell. Great name.
My mother would be happy.
Right. You can't forget that name. All right. So everybody, OnTrac Coach, find him. He is the coach to lawyers that are becoming great, that have become great. He's been doing it for a long time. And so please contact him if you're looking for some kind of help like that. Well, Gary, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me.
My pleasure, Tom. It was great to meet you, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Yeah, buddy. All right, hang on. All right, everybody, you all take care and have a wonderful day.